The work of the Criminal Records Office of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Services is very often misunderstood. Tobago CSI had an opportunity to speak with Corporal Jones as he explained to us the processes involved in collecting evidence that will lead to the capture and detention of perpetrators.
My name is Arnel Jones. I've been working in this establishment for a period of at least 15 years. I've been attached to the fingerprint section for 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's quite an interesting area.
So you enjoy this section?
Yes, I do.
So on a daily basis, on an average, how many calls will you all get?
On average, we get about 7, roughly to about 10 calls on a daily basis.
About the process, you receive a call, what happens next?
Well, on receipt of a call in relation to a fingerprint scene, we make communication with the investigator initially to be appraised as to the conditions of the scene at hand. Obviously, we want to know to get as much facts as possible. Subsequent to that, we make efforts to communicate with the victim. Having communicated with the victim, we establish a time and place of meeting.
Right.
And then we try to get to the scene as promptly as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of what should we, as citizens who have been burglarized or so, not do that makes your job harder?
Okay. Well, there are a lot of challenges, to be honest with you. What I could tell you from up front, there's never a perfect crime scene.
Right.
All right? Scenes are always contaminated, whether it be by the general public, you know, somebody looking in, by the police themselves. It's always compromised. However, we try to minimize that level of the scene being compromised.
Okay.
Okay. Relative, if I'm to break it down somewhat, say we're dealing with a house breaking and larceny, it's expected that the persons therein, they would be become a bit frantic, you know, because of the situation. It's not something that is accustomed to. So they may want to do a lot of things. They may want to check on their properties, especially recognizing that they would have been burglared or broken into. That in itself would lead to contamination.
Right.
In the sense that although they would be living there, obviously they would come in contact with a number of things. However, whenever a scene of that nature occurs, it's expected that you minimize further contact with the areas of concern.
Okay.
All right? And that is important because the fingerprint unit, we would have been established on certain basis premises.
Right.
And there are certain principles that we are guided by. One of which is considered to be Locard's principle. Every contact leaves a trace. Every contact leaves a trace. And another principle that we understand clearly is that, you know, the last contact is normally the strongest. Okay? So having said that, if it is that a scene, someone would have broken into a home or house, as the case may be, and that person, the perpetrator, would have come in contact with an area that may be of some concern to the police, then therefore it's expected that that contact would be the strongest.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that other persons would have lived or is living on the premises at that point in time. Okay? So to avoid further contamination, we ask persons, or we would advise persons, to less contact or communication or any kind of contact with the area of concern. Okay?
So you have got the evidence, the fingerprints and so on. What happens after?
Okay. In respect to having achieved finger impressions on a scene, having processed that scene and developed finger latent impressions, it's normally photographed. All right, we mark it, meaning that we would have placed our markings around the impressions, mainly for court purposes. All right, that signifies identity, shows that, all right, this print was developed at this particular location at this point in time. And we try to be consistent with regards to how it is done. all right, you know, standard operating procedures. We have it done in the presence of the victim, okay, and the investigator, if so be, most of the time in the presence of the victim, all right, so that their markings would also be placed on it for identity purposes, court, okay. Having done that, whatever impression, finger impression that is obtained is photographed. All right, we have the police, the official police photographer, who comes and takes photos of the impressions. Now, with the photos, we have contacts being developed. Contacts or photographs, additional photographs. Those photographs are used in addition for court. All right? Apart from court, before it reaches that stage, it would go through a process whereby the photographs are put onto a system, an automated system. And that system has persons who has been charged criminal offenses. Right, we have a database whereby we use those photographs against. And this is where we sit as the fingerprint experts and we do a side-by-side comparison, and we go through that database to establish whether this person is indeed or in fact the individual in question. Okay, and that comparison is done on a side-by-side analysis.
Do you have an average success rate?
Average success rate? In respect to Tobago, unfortunately, the rate is not high. It is not high. But we would have gained some success in the year 2013, 2012, 2014 to some extent.
Right.
All right, we have been finding prints or impressions on scene, finger latent impressions. However, recently it has not proved to be that successful. But we are working on it. We are working on it, most importantly.
Important. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
Well, you would have asked me before concerning on approaching a scene and with persons who are considered to be victims, you know, and their concerns and, you know, the problems we face. Now, it's not easy to say, do not touch, right? It's not easy to say because, again, it's an alarming situation and you may tend to behave a bit irrational. However, I would suggest that once you recognize, once you have the view that you have been broken into, I would strongly suggest that you try your utmost best and communicate with the relevant agency, the police service, as soon as possible.
We have a role to play in assisting them in this process. We hope that this would help you to understand better your responsibility in reducing the levels of crime and violence in Tobago.
If you could recall from the earlier interview, I would have mentioned that in 2013, 2012 and onwards, yeah, we would have had a lot of persons going before the court, having been dealt with through the crimes, having been solved through fingerprint. Okay, evidence-led, yes, we have been. And, you know, it's something very difficult to get out of, to say, well, I did not commit that crime, because a fingerprint actually ties you into that, you know, places you on the scene of the crime, unless you have reasonable grounds otherwise, you know. But in 2012, 2013, and some part there for 2014, we would have gained some success in terms of having persons go on before the court and getting convictions as the case may be. Science, we would have gained success with the science. We don't need to use that brush. Once we don't mix the powders with it, it wouldn't create a problem. All right, if we mix the powders, therefore it would create a problem for you processing other scenes. So we don't mix it. Black is black, gray is gray, white is white, the magna is magna. We don't mix it. but it could be used on any other scene. That is not a form of contamination. Yes. Well, the regular soap and powder would definitely do the job. The soap, powder, water. All right.
Go ahead.
What I would have done, basically, I would have brought some material just for use, just for demonstration purposes, okay? In relation to what we could actually use to obtain impressions. This basically is a glass cleaner, right? You have a shell tux, a tin. I brought a piece of paper as well, all right? And these are the mechanisms that I'm going to use to actually try to use to develop the impressions. What we have here, we have a wand, Magna wand, all right? That's basically used with a magnetic powder, all right? It's very good on paper, very, very good on paper. Sometimes you may have a situation where someone home is burglared and they may have large quantity of cash in an envelope or something that is paper formed. We use the Magna wand with the magnetic powder to really process that. It achieves better prints, right? Much more workable prints. You have other brushes here, as well as this is the normal powder brush. This is the normal powder brush as well. They all used for regular powders. All right, we have powders such as the aluminum powder, which works primarily on any surface. All right, it's widely used. We have it's silver gray in color. All right, we have this is the magnetic powder which I spoke of in relation to the Magna wand. All right, and we have silver black. It's a granular powder. Okay, granular in the sense that the flakes are a lot larger, and the development stage is similar to that of the Magna as well as the aluminum. All right, so what I would ask of you, miss, if you could assist me in this, is to make some contact, and let's see if the powders are of use. Yes, you could sit down there and you could hold on to those tins anywhere you feel. Yeah. Right. Right. Now, right. So let's start with this one first. Now, before I go there, this is called a parallel pad. All right. This pad is used basically to obtain impressions for example, if we're doing certificate of characters. Now, we have a new system that is used, a machine. However, in the event, it's always good to have a backup. All right, so we use the parallel pad. It is inkless in the sense that normally we would have applied ink to the hand and then rolled it on paper. Now you just slip your hand on the pad, and it's not that bad for usage. It's not that. All right. Yes. Yes. Right. So we're going to try the Magna one. Try the Magna one. Right. Remember I told you it's magnetic, so it actually picks up the powder. All right. And you put it onto the surface. It's a bit different, but it's interesting. Now, one of the things that you would pay particular attention to is how prints are formed. Okay? When someone actually makes contact with a surface, what happens is that the hand itself, it normally has oil and grease from the sweat, right? Now, having made contact with the surface, that is exhibited onto the surface, whatever surface area you come in contact with. Some people are considered to be high secretors. Some people are considered to be low secretors. All right, in the sense that you may not sweat much, so you may not see the impressions developing as brightly as they should. Then you would see some people now, as soon as you apply the powder, it comes up like that. Very, very bright. All right? Very, very bright. Don't worry, you haven't missed me. No, you haven't missed me at all.
I can make a good.
No, you haven't missed me at all. Picking you up right here.
Yeah,
You see too?
yeah.
Now, I do not want you to think that the impression has to be dark to see well. No, it doesn't necessarily have to. What we are looking for basically is the lines. The lines are known as ridges. So even though if you would have pressed slightly onto the surface area, you can still pick it up. Now, let me show you something. You see those lines here? Those lines carry characteristics. The characteristics are what we use to make the identification. It must be done in sequence, okay? So it makes you unique to anyone. Only you and you bear this particular impression. You may have a similar pattern to someone else, but the characteristics in sequence differentiates you from another individual.
Are there family characteristics that, might be similar?
Actually, it doesn't happen in that way. That is what assists you in differentiating the person. You would have different characteristics going continuously. Yeah, there's no specific line of characteristics that would follow. But with regards to your impression, it would be specific to you. Okay? Right. So I hope that you see in the print all those. Right, the lines are actually known as ridges, but we use the term lines for layman's speech. But they're actually ridges. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4. You have this little one right here. But an identification could be made from here, as simple as it is. Right? Right. One of the difficulty we experience is on some of these surfaces here. And this is why I brought this, because sometimes these things may appear to be smooth in nature. When you look at the bottle cover at the top here, it seems to be relatively smooth. Sometimes it's not exactly. Most of the time it's based on the area, these areas where you have the paper on, right? Because it's a bit glassy, right? Likewise on this. This is okay, but we'll see. We'll see how things unfold here, right? Another thing, with the use of the powder, on whatever surface, there's a contrast. If there's a surface that appears to be white, we use black. If there's a surface that appears to be black, we try to use gray or white. All right, so there's a contrast, and that assists in bringing out the impression a lot clearer. Yes. So for this one, I use the silk. Now mind you, all these things are done with the protective gear. Yeah. That is with your gloves and with your, right? Is it that you've seen something already, or you're not seen anything just yet? Have you? Have you seen anything? Right. If we had to pay some attention to here, you're going to see the lines forming here. Now this is a very good impression in respect to identification, because you're seeing the lines, and on each of those lines you would see characteristics. All right, you're actually seeing the formation of a pattern, and you're seeing lines that follow. So this in itself, we mark this and we have it photographed, and it goes through the full process. Okay. So because below here is a bit dark, I would not use the gradient. The black there, I would use another powder there. And another thing, if you realize I'm not using the same brush. If I use a black brush, if I use this brush, and the black powder, I would not use that for the, all right, I would interchange. And this is very lighter. This powder gets into the air, and it gets into your system too, right? Pores and stuff. This is extremely light. Yes, yes, that's why you have your protective gear and stuff. At this point, you're seeing where your hand, not necessarily the finger, but you're seeing different parts of the palm coming in contact with this. You're seeing it all along this area here. All right. What I didn't tell you, you can also make identification from the palm as well. Okay. That is something that we are trying to work on. The registry is not that wide at the moment, but we're making efforts to work on that. The palm, wherever we see palm impressions, we are taking them as well, because identification can be made from the palm. All right, but you're seeing it here where you would have held onto it from the palm of the hand. Okay? All right. So basically that's it.
One bite! I want to play!
Oh, you can do that, boy! Oh, you can do that, boy!
Stop the violence and abuse. Stay calm. Start thinking. The Ministry of National Security Citizen Security Program.
No, I'm not ready for that.
Stop. Stay calm. Start thinking.
Okay, cool.
Later.
A message from the Ministry of National Security's Citizen Security Program.
Kisha, you know this girl coming here?
What's that?
I can't remember her name. But if you hear the kinds of things this girl is saying about you.
Serious? Like what?
Girl, all kind of things.
Go study it. We go fix that. I hear you talking about
What
me.
you hear me talking about?
Huh?
Don't worry, y'all back up. Y'all back up here. Y'all back up here.
Stop the violence and abuse. Stay calm. Start thinking.
People talk, yes.
The Ministry of National Security Citizen Security Program.
The decisions you make today influence your future. You determine where you want to be. Make the right choice. Stop. Stay calm. Start thinking. A message from the Ministry of National Security's Citizen Security Program.
I'm Samantha John.
I am Nadia Batson.
The incredible Myron B.
I'm K.I. Chucky Gordon.
Hi, my name is Sheriff.
And we are Freetown.
And I'm urging each and every citizen of our beautiful country.
It's time for us to put a stop to crime and violence in Trinidad and Tobago once and for all.
In Freetown, we believe that every citizen has the right to life.
We need to be responsible not only for ourselves but for others as well.
I think the only way to counteract any kind of fear is to inject love.
We have the power to stand up, to unite, to stay positive, and to win back our country.
Build a culture of lawfulness, peace, respect, love, harmony.
The Citizen Security Program.
Stop the violence and abuse.
Stop the violence and abuse.
Stay calm.
Stay calm.
Stay calm.
Stay calm and start thinking.
Start thinking.
And start thinking.
A message from the Citizen Security Program. Stop the violence and abuse. Stay calm and start thinking.